topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Life with Open Pages. We all have a purpose in life. Sometimes we just need a little motivation to point us in the right direction. This show is designed to help you create the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Michelle Bannister. My goal is to motivate you to make simple life changes so you can experience a life with meaning, direction, love, and peace. Now let's start the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Life with Open Pages. I'm Michelle, and tonight we're going to be talking about how you're putting your family's health at risk by not doing something special. Now, when it comes to health, people often think it's all up to their doctors. Not so, warns my guest, Anne McAwley-LeDuc, a retired nurse practitioner who says patients have an important role in their own medical team, a role that they often shirk out of lack of awareness. Often overlooked, she'll say, are the patient's duties for keeping full and accurate records of medical histories, doctor visits, procedures, treatments, medications, and more. Please welcome to the show my guest, Anne McAwley-LeDuc.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you because, you sent me a copy of your book, This Personal Organizer, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Before we dive into that, could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, about your nursing background, and where you came to get all the information?
Sure. Well, let's see. The nursing goes way back, 1972. Okay. Yes, I am 71 years old, and I've had a great nursing career. I did everything, and then I started to do it again. And I remember working in orthopedics, my first job, walking down the hall with a big tray of medications. That's when we had trays.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, this is so much fun. And then when I was 50, I'd gone back into the hospital after doing many things. And I was walking down the hall with a cart of medications. And I said, I'm tired of giving the meds. I want to order them. So at 51, I went back to school and became a nurse practitioner.
That's wonderful.
10 years as a nurse practitioner. I worked in long-term care with nursing home patients and short-term rehab people. Patients that had to come out of the hospital because you don't stay in the hospitals that long now. And then we took care of them until they went home. So it was a great career. And now I'm retired and an author and very busy.
Yeah, it's amazing how some people are even more busy when they retire than they were when they were working.
Oh, yes, that would be me.
So you have a personal health organizer. Tell us about it. Tell us a little bit about how you came to write this book and where you got all of the information from.
My husband had an accident during Hurricane Irene. And he fell all the way down the basement stairs, smacked the concrete wall, opened up his nose, had a spinal cord injury.
Oh.
And of course, there was no power, which is why he fell. So I went to a major trauma center near here, and he had not been there before, and they didn't have his medical records. There were no records, and the doctor's offices weren't open to call. So on rounds, they looked to me, his wife, for his medical history. Now, they figured, of course, that's his wife. She'll know. And she's a nurse practitioner. Of course, she'll know. Well, I was up over 24 hours, and I was a basket case with the paralysis, which God has healed. I'll put that out there now.
Praise the Lord.
So I'm standing there and just looking at all this team of doctors, and I thought, oh, if only I had a cheat sheet. So I wrote the cheat sheet. It was the personal health organizer I wrote, where you would write down all the major information that you need through a lifetime. Not all your details. I have a 2-part system for that, but your major information that you need. Now, everybody, hopefully nobody will have an accident like that where they have to remember and take care of the situation. But we all forget.
Sure.
We forget things. It's easy. You forget dates. You have to fill out medical forms. And let's face it, nowadays, the medical team doesn't have all the time in the world to sit while you're thinking of things. Bang, bang, bang. The appointment is over. To be organized, have the right information is so important nowadays. It's different from the days when we had one GP and knew us all and we didn't have to remember. Now we do. Now it's wise to keep track of our own health and our kids and our families.
Sure. I know every time I go to a new doctor and I fill out the form, the surgeries that I've had, they're probably all within 5 years of when they really actually happened, because I can never remember the year that I had something done unless there was something really specific that stood out that year. Otherwise, I say, oh, I had my gallbladder out, but I think, was it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago? I have no idea. So I just write a date down.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they require these dates. Just know that I had my gallbladder out, I had a surgery on my shoulder. But I mean, is there a significance to knowing the dates?
I suppose they could go back and get the records if they need to, but they do like to keep the dates. It's true that you're always asked, what have you had for a diagnosis? When was it diagnosed? What date? Surgeries? What date? X-ray? What date? They do. They like that.
Right.
They, not me, certainly. They. But and it's hard to remember the dates, and it's hard to remember all our diagnoses. I've forgotten one on those forms. Those forms are pages and pages long. And I forgot one because there wasn't a box to check. So if you have your diagnoses written out, you just bring your book with you, look at that page of that list for a page of diagnoses, check, 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 and you're done.
That's great. Now, a lot of the office visits now, you say, you ask the patients, bring in a list of your medications. And most times that's pretty much all we tell them. Just bring a list of your medications. I've never thought to say, bring, a list of your history or, specific things or dates or those kind of things. Now, when we talk about an in-office visit versus now a virtual office visit, is the information that you need to provide the same?
Pretty much the same. You do need to check the records because people make mistakes putting your information into the chart. We used to have a chart. Now it's electronic. People make mistakes. We all do. You can end up with an omission or an additional diagnosis that wasn't yours. There is hacking of medical records. You don't think about it. We don't really hear about it much, but I've done some research and there people hack records, put things in, take it out so that they can make a virtual person to get prescriptions. I mean, I don't know how it works, but it's done. And you do. I know a girl that she had a prostate diagnosis in her chart, something to do with the prostate. Now, she didn't have a prostate.
No.
But so she kind of laughed it off. But what if it was kidney disease or something really serious that you couldn't determine by the male or female or whatever? That could really be hazardous. So really what we should do is, they always say the first thing, what new meds are you on? So run by all your meds with them, have it with you, and run by your diagnoses. Say, this is what I have. It only takes us a few seconds. And they'll say, oh, this is what I have. And just kind of compare notes. It's the safest thing to do.
Right. And not only that, they always say, do you have any allergies? Has any of your allergies changed? I went into a doctor's office not long ago and they said, are you still allergic to this, this, and this? And I said, yes. And they never asked me, did you develop any other allergies? So I think it's really important that you do keep a list of your allergies, because some of them, sometimes I forget, that I have a,
Yes.
erythromycin or something allergy, and I forget. And unless they have it in their chart, and if you're going to a brand new doctor, they're not going to have it in their chart. As
Yep.
much as this country wants to go to a standard medical record that will be seen in every hospital, every doctor's office, until that time, you really have to keep your own records, correct?
That's correct. Yes. And allergies, the reaction is very important. If you're
Mhm.
allergic to penicillin, a lot of us were as child and we outgrow it. But if
Mhm.
you're allergic, if you have a bellyache, they might have written it as an allergy. That's not an allergy. We can fix that.
Right.
But if you're truly allergic, that can wipe out 2 categories of antibiotics. So for 7 categories to pick from, 2 are eliminated. You have resistance to others. I've had patients that there was nothing for them to take for a urine infection between the allergies, the unknown reaction to allergies, and the drug resistance. So it is important to always have your allergy and what your reaction is. And then we as providers will determine whether it's worth the risk to take it. This
Mhm.
is nothing, this is fine, or we're down to the wire and we really need to take a risk here. So
Sure.
it's
Sure.
important. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you have a question here. Who should have a personal health organizer?
Well, in my opinion, everybody,
Okay.
because our health is our most precious commodity.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't think about it until we're sick.
Mhm.
And we keep track of our bank statement. We don't trust the bank to do it. And our money's important, but we don't do it with our health. And we really, really should. And so each individual, for
Mhm.
the children, to start them off when they're young, give them a record of what's happened when they're young. They won't remember when they're adults. They don't know, they should know family history. What if all the family disappears? They
Oh,
won't know
yeah.
their family history. And that's very important nowadays. It's becoming more and more important as we do preventive health. And so children, adults, and if you're a caregiver,
Mhm.
it takes the burden off just having everything at your fingertips. You have so much to deal with as a caregiver. I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many caregivers have come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I really need this book. I never thought about it before, but it will help me be organized and not have to remember everything about the person they're taking care of." Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I could see that. And a lot of older adults are remarrying in their
Mhm.
60s, 70s, sometimes 80s.
Yes.
And so, when you do present at the hospital, because you're an older adult, people automatically assume that you've been married forever. So I could see where this would be a really important tool for them as well, because they may not know the history of that person, because maybe they've only been together for a couple of years.
Yeah. Yep. And family members. The hospital called me when my brother was in the hospital and said, "Does he have any allergies?" I didn't know. I never thought
Oh,
about
wow.
it. You don't really think about asking your family about your medical history or their allergies and different things. But someday you may wish you had.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So, kind of walk us through this personal organizer. One of the things that I did love when I started paging through it was you have a page for a birth record, and
Mhm.
then you have a page, the opposite side of the page says adoption.
Mhm.
So I just absolutely love that, because how many people are adopted that don't know their family history? Now,
Mhm.
that said, is there a way to find out any of their family history? Are you aware of that?
Well, I think that all records are sealed till you're 18.
Okay.
And then at that point, both parties have to agree to talk and share.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know that there's any other way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But just knowing in this book, if you had to pick up this book for, you were a caregiver and you had to pick it up for somebody and you saw that they were adopted, that could change the direction of the care as well that person could be getting.
Yep.
Right.
And for the adoption page, it gives the adopted person some basic background of where they were born, or some different information. Not everybody wants to fill out the birth page or the adoption page. It's all optional. It's a tool. It's an individual tool that people can get comfortable with. But my parents died young, and I didn't really know what hospital I was born in. I knew it was in New York, but I didn't know where. And when I had to get a birth certificate, it was a challenge to try to find out where I was born. So
right. And one thing I really find interesting that I have seen over a lot of years of my nursing career is people don't know their own blood type.
Right. Yep.
And that is important.
Yep.
I mean, everybody should carry a card in their wallet of what their blood type is. You get into that car accident and you're unconscious and you need blood, it takes extra time to do that type and cross and all of that,
Yep. Good point. Yeah.
It's amazing. So again, walk us through, let us know what's in the organizer and maybe some things that might stand out as really, really important that we should keep track of.
Sure. Now, of course, I don't have one in front of me because my memory, we're talking about trying to remember everything, but I'll wing it here, and you can help me out, Michelle, if you find something you have questions about.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that you have the birth pages, and at the very back, you have at the end of the scope here, you have your final wishes. Now, that may not be appropriate for someone younger, but for the older people to have things in one spot. Where are your wills? I have a friend that when she passed, the family didn't know where her will was. And eventually they found it. It was in a box in a bank, but it wasn't in the town bank because we don't have boxes in the bank here.
Right.
So where is your important information kept so your family can find it? What do you want in your final days, I guess, or your living will, and when you want to be buried and different things. So that's the birth and the passing. And in between, we do have the pages where you simply list your diagnoses. And that works when you go to the doctor's office or comparing notes at the doctor's office. The forms are in verbally to compare, or like a virtual appointment where you want that list. They don't care about all the details about everything. They'll ask a question, but to make sure you have your list to compare to theirs. It also has a list for your surgeries and your some main testing, like your colonoscopy and different things.
Sure.
Yeah. Then there's a section where it's by body part, say heart, lungs, your skin, and anything that you have had go wrong with that. You write more details.
Right.
Not the list where you're just listing out high blood pressure, say. But under high blood pressure, you may have some things that have failed. You want to put more details. And that's for you to help remember, and also to pass on to the doctor if they want more information. And that takes a while to fill out.
Right.
Then you have your diagnostic section where you put your x-rays and your CAT scans, because they'll ask you. It's somewhere in your record, but they don't always have time to find it. And they'll say, when was your last whatever. There's a dental section for your cavities. You won't know which tooth, but you may say upper right, you need a cavity or whatever when you got your crown, when your root canal. There's a men's section specific to men, and there's a pregnancy section for some pregnancies, and there's a women's section for the women's problems specific to them. There's a medications, and there is one page where you list your medications that did not work. And
I
that's
saw that. Yeah, I
yeah,
was going to ask you about that. It says ineffective medications. Talk
yep,
a little bit more about that.
yeah. It's not an allergy because there's a spot for allergies and your reaction. But it's
Mm-hmm.
if you try a medication for high blood pressure, say my husband had one for high blood pressure, and
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't work for him. And he had some salt problems with it.
Mm-hmm.
He put that down and they changed the medication because just because you try one medication doesn't mean it's going to work. But
Mm-hmm.
down the road, you may forget that medication that didn't work. It
Okay.
happened to me with him. And like, oh, good thing I wrote it down because I forgot that he did try that and it simply didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So to try it again, why try it again if it didn't work? Move on. There's another one. So it's that type of information. That might be a little confusing to people, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and then of course your immunizations from birth through
Mm-hmm.
your life.
Okay.
Yep. So what else? What did I forget?
Yeah, I see family medical history.
Oh, yes, very important. Thank you.
Mhm.
See, there's that old
Mhm.
memory. Um, this is
No,
why
you're
we
doing
need to write.
great. You're doing great.
Family history. And it's, it's not something you talk about all the time, but
Right.
you do want to get your family's history while
Mhm.
they're still here. And if it becomes commonplace and acceptable for people to talk about it, that's the goal I think that society should be at.
Mhm.
Let people know, oh, my mother, say, had colon cancer. So then that gets put in the book because going down the line, you have colon cancer in your family, you're
Mhm.
going to get to have your colonoscopy earlier than everybody else.
Right.
It's all in the name of early diagnosis and treatment so that
Mhm.
you hopefully will be fine.
Now, do you find that families don't disclose past history, and what would be the reason for that?
I think some people just don't think about it. They
Okay.
don't think that people need that information.
Mm.
And that's where we're trying to communicate now how important family history really is. And some people may have a diagnosis they don't want anyone to know. That's fine.
Mhm.
This is your personal tool to keep your information, if that's the way you feel. But sometimes we're talking about family, and sometimes it just helps to have everybody aware of everything. But again, it's a personal choice on how much to disclose. But I think people
Right.
just don't think about it. And
Mhm.
people on the whole, really, Michelle, talking about keeping their own medical record, they don't think about it. They say, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. We haven't had to, but times are different now.
Yes,
Mm, yeah.
they are much
Yep, they
different
are.
now.
Yeah.
Now, you have a section here for deaths in the family.
Deaths in the family just
Mhm.
helps you remember. They'll, on those forms, they'll sometimes say parents, grandparents, when
Mhm.
did they die? What did they die of? Those are on those doctors' forms.
Mhm.
So I guess it shows longevity and again, I mean, if somebody died of heart disease, your grandfather, then that heart disease is in your family. That's a family history.
It
But it
is.
also shows what side of the family, and um,
Yeah,
who died.
because that's important because some, male or female might be more dominant than, other. And
Yep.
so you could end up with heart disease just because your dad or your grandpa or someone had it. So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yep.
I love that you have that you can list in here your healthcare providers, your hospitals and clinics, pharmacies, insurance companies. That's
Hmm.
another thing that I thought, wow, that's really cool to be able to add that information here. And yes, it'll change as you grow older and change insurance companies and stuff. But for a family member to be able to grab this book, because we all know everybody wants to get paid, right?
Yes. Yep. Yes. Yep. Yep. And if you're ever looking for some information, how many times have we said, "Oh, who was the insurance company? Who should I call?" I cobraed, I had a new job, and then I have another job. Who was that one I had a couple times ago? You might forget. So you just kind of jot it down. And it's the same with the doctors. Can you rattle off all your brother's doctors? No. But can you rattle off your own?
I'm lucky to remember my own.
Yes, very good. Yes. Yeah. So,
well, we're going to stop right here and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Do you have a project or service that you want the world to know about? Or would you like to have your business or project highlighted during the show to a wide audience? If you would like to be a guest or sponsor of the show, please contact us at info@openpagespublishing.com. That's info@openpagespublishing.com. Okay, we're back. And I'm here tonight talking with Anne McAwley-LeDuc. And we're talking about her personal organizer that she wrote back in 2020. And it's a way to keep all of your medical record information, allergies, doctors, tests, you name it, in one place, which is just, it's a gold mine. So, Anne, when we talked about parents earlier, this would be a perfect gift for that new mom or dad. What do you think?
Yes. Yep. Baby showers. Do they still give baby showers?
Yes.
They do. Very good. Yes.
Well, they have baby showers. They have gender reveal showers. They have couple showers. You name it. These kids nowadays have a reason to throw a party.
Oh, perfect. Yes. And here's the perfect gift. It's good. Yes. It's good for the husband and wife or partners, whatever your lifestyle is, and the children that come along. And it's easier to start it early.
Right.
One of the comments about my book was, oh gosh, there's so much. I just can't do it. But maybe this would be good for children. Yep. True. It's easier to start as a child and have it and just continue it for them. But what I say, Michelle, is for those of us that are older and haven't had one, just start today and go forward and fill in as you can. You probably know your allergies. You put in, just write in the book what you know, your diagnoses, and then get the records from your doctor and backfill and just move forward with it. And don't worry about being so neat like a perfect little diary. It's a tool. Write in it, cross it off, erase, do it in pen, and just write. Just put it in there. The minute you get home for an appointment, write your new diagnosis in, write your x-ray, and write whatever it is once you get it settled, and it makes it so much easier.
Sure, because there's actually a lot of disease processes out there where people forget. And they'll go from one doctor appointment to the other. And it may be a doctor's appointment in the same week, but because of the treatment they're receiving, or, Alzheimer's, or, all kind of mind altering kind of disease processes, they can't remember from one day to the next. Yep. So I would see where this would be a great tool to, write everything down.
Write it down and keep it in the same spot in your bookcase. So you always know where it is. And could be a lifesaver.
Right. Yep. Now, you say at a minimum, keep track of these 5 areas. What are the 5 areas?
Well, your medications, number 1, and your allergies with the reaction, and your diagnoses. You need to know those. And I can expound on some of this if you need me to.
Sure.
And family history.
Okay.
And what else? I wrote them down because I might forget.
The immunization.
I told you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Your immunizations.
Right. Right.
So
very important.
Keep track. Yep. Keep track of them. And it just, it's for you and your family to be able to take care of you. And I can't stress that enough when I had to take care of my husband. And I have a 2-part system. It's the book your personal health organizer is for the major medical events that you carry through a lifetime, like your diagnoses and the major, when you had your cancer treatment and his paralysis. And the second part is keeping a little notebook, and mine is right here. I don't know if you can see this. It's a cheap little notebook. It's 88 cents at a big box store. And, they come with the pretty little covers. Mine's red. And that's where you bring it to your doctor's office and you write down ahead of time, the doctor, the date you see them, your questions. Write down your questions. You'll forget. You'll get home and say, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask something. And then write down what the doctor says and what to do. Because again, you'll forget when you get home because it's a short visit these days. They're in a hurry. It's not their problem. It's just the way the system is now.
Right.
And then you have that. And I always, in the margin, I write the blood pressure and the weight. So that, and then the next doctor, I wrote the date, the next doctor, blah, 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 the questions, the treatments, all the things they say to do. And I've frequently looked back to see what did he say? You look back, it's your record. But it's not important to keep forever because it's just now.
Okay.
The stuff in the book, well, that's an ongoing large medical deal.
Yeah, I found, I worked in a doctor's office one time and I was just absolutely blown away by they would schedule appointments every 15 minutes. Now, if it was a new patient, it would be for 30 minutes. And, I think about the times when I've been to the doctor, he walks in, introduces himself, kind of looks at your record because he didn't look at it before he walked in there. And he's got to try and get a big snapshot, ask why you're there. Next thing you know, he's listening a little bit to you and you got any questions? And all that within maybe a 10-minute window. And so, if you don't write down those questions, man, he's out the door.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any questions answered.
Yep. And that's really your time. On my website, I have a freebie of 12 questions that you could ask. Now, they're not things you may ask every time, but they're important things that you can sneak in. If you're on a medication, there's certain things you should be asking. And you get home and you say, gee, can I drive? Or when do I call him if I don't feel well? There's certain things you just don't know, but you don't remember until you get home. And then you're home.
Yes, for sure. Now, you mentioned your website. Go ahead and tell us your website.
Personal-health-organizer.com.
Okay. And where can your book be purchased?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And I'm a little hard to find on Amazon. So the best way is if you go to the website, there's a button to push that brings you right to my book on Amazon. But if you want to go directly to Amazon, Personal and Anne, A-N-N-E with an E, will bring you right to the book.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's the easiest way. Yep.
And the name of the book is Personal Health Organizer, a complete, easy-to-use system to quickly document your major medical and dental history. It's a lifetime record. And I tell you, it's a great, great tool to have. Okay. So let's talk now about how we can prevent medical mistakes and medication errors.
Okay. Yes. I wrote those down to make sure I got this right.
Yeah.
Yes. That was a memory. Okay. Well, we have to advocate for ourselves and our family. That's kind of a given these days.
Sure.
Yep. Even the hospitals suggest you have an advocate when you go in. That's number one. And know your medical diagnoses and your meds. You can do a little research and find out what they are. Okay. It's surprising how many people just accept things and they don't know what they are. I know someone who ended up, and you'll understand this, Michelle. She had 3 major anticoagulant blood thinners, 3 at one time.
Oh, wow.
And they were major. It wasn't like, a minor one and a major one, which we used. That's, we've used this. These were 3 major ones. She was on this for 6 months, this regime. And she went to one of the doctors, and he said, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible. You need to get off this."
Right.
If she'd fallen, she could have bled to death. She could have a brain bleed. I mean, it really is a hazard, and people don't know. Providers, we know what the meds are for, but the regular person might not.
Right.
Or they may say, "Well, I'm on 3 of them. The doctor must know what he's doing." No, you raise your hand and say, "I'm already on a blood thinner. You want me on 2, or you want me on 3? We have to communicate. We have to be able to raise our hand, and it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you won't know to ask unless you know what those meds are for and your diagnoses. Why are you on it? So that's another one. That has to do with communication. And also I say, it's fun to go to the doctor's office and chat with the doctor because we know them, right? But that you're eating up your 10 minutes.
Yes.
So kind of be nice, get to work, write your answers, ask your questions. And then if there's time after, then you can chat.
Right.
Chances are there probably won't be much chatting time. He's got another patient to see.
Yes.
And then you keep your personal health organizer. And then if you're on a virtual appointment or in the office, compare your diagnoses with the computer, with the ones from the computer. Just offer it up. Say, I'd like to just run my diagnoses down that I have against your computer. You may have been to a consultant and that information isn't in their computer yet. And it may make a big difference.
Sure.
So that's what I say for medical mistakes. It's really keep your records, raise your hand and communicate in a nice way because you know your information and you're advocating for yourself and for your family. And that's fine. There isn't one provider out there that wouldn't give 20 seconds to be doing some of this rather than make a mistake.
Oh, yes. we're all trying to protect our license nowadays. It's very difficult. But I can say I have a lot of patients that rely on Dr. Google. And what I like to suggest, if you're going to look up drugs and you want to understand drugs, go to drugs.com. Because Dr. Google, pretty much anybody can post on the internet, and you've got to be really, really careful what you're reading and what you're going by.
Yes.
And what do you go by?
Well, I guess I have a good background because I've been ordering meds for 10 years.
Right.
If I have to, I have an old PDR.
Oh, okay.
It's an old book. Yep. And sometimes I'll call the pharmacist and ask, say, "Hey, I was a nurse practitioner. I have a few questions." So that's what I do.
Okay.
But I'm old fashioned. Yeah. You have to be careful on the internet.
You do.
And then anything you find, you can always run by your doctor and say, "Hey, I found this." They'll say, "Nope, no good," or "Yep, that's true." And they can further explain.
Right. I've also referred people to a pharmacist, especially when, a lot of people are going, trying to go more natural, take vitamins, take herbs and stuff like that. And I know when I worked in the doctor's office, they would say, "Well, can I take this vitamin or this herb with my heart medication?" And I would immediately give them to the pharmacy and say, they know your meds because, we may not have a complete list of their meds.
Right.
So the pharmacists, because they buy their, medications from hopefully one place, they'll have a list and then they'll be able to tell them a better interaction. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think that's a great idea. They know They know meds. They're pharmacists. I always wished I had one in my pocket. I tell you.
Right?
Yes. But I think they're very, very valuable. They're busy also, but I think again they like to help the person out to know and be safe. So,
Mhm.
yep, I agree. As far as the herbals go, that's a good point. You need to disclose that as a medication always, because there is
Yes.
a lot of interactions. Yep.
And I do find that a lot of people think just because they take an over-the-counter vitamin that they don't have to tell the provider. And it
Right.
comes out a little bit later that they've been taking vitamin C, and actually vitamin C is interacting with their medication. And now, that explains the symptoms, whereas we had to do a whole background and please tell me everything you're taking, whether it's over the counter or by the pharmacist. And, when you kind of narrow it down. So I could see where, keeping this book, again, you have to write down every single thing you're taking, even if you think it's insignificant, correct?
Yep. Absolutely correct. Yep. Over the counters, herbals, regular medications. Yep. Very good. Yeah.
Now, I didn't see a spot in here, but I know it could go under notes. What about the medical marijuana stuff that people are getting their cards for and taking? And I have, again, seen patients too afraid to tell their doctor that they're taking that and then wonder why, they're not feeling so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, anything is a medication. Any drug is a medication, and you need to be honest. Yeah, that could go under a note. That could go under a note. And in the back, I do have a section where you can make a photocopy of the pages. So if you run out and you need more pages for something, you go to the back, and there's a section where those pages, you just open it up, get a copy. If you have a copier at home or at the library or at school or whatever, and then you can clip it in your book. So you can stick that wherever in the medication section.
Okay.
Yep, because it is a med.
It is a med. Have you experienced, though, when you were in, working as a practitioner and practicing, did you see where people were afraid to tell you those kind of things, and maybe you found out in a different way, or how did that go?
Yeah, I didn't. Oh, I had in the nursing home, of course, I knew all the meds because I ordered them.
Okay.
And for the rehab patients, they might have done things and didn't say anything. They might have. And I took care of them just for the week, the month, the 3 months, and then they went home. But I've never had anyone say they smoked marijuana. No.
Okay.
No.
Have you ever, one thing that I know, I remember when my dad was in a nursing home, and he had, of course, all of his meds at home, and then he had his meds there at the facility. Sometimes he'd have some of his meds from home taken home because they didn't think they were right at the facility. Have you experienced that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd have to have conversations, and it had to be, let's see what you're taking, and this is what you need here. And we kind of work with the patient to see. Yeah. Yeah. It's because we need to know. Like you said,
Right.
we need to know everything somebody's taking. It's the safest thing. And that's what we're here for, to provide safe medicine.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's really important. It's truly important. As a nurse myself, it's, to have everything written down. I see patients all the time that, well, I think I'm taking this. Well, maybe it's this milligram, or, well, I only take it when I need it. And it was actually prescribed to take every single day.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
going to be a
Yep.
really important thing to write down in this book as well. How often you're taking it. Don't just write the med, write everything out, right, on that prescription, right? That's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The dose and how many times. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's part of the deal. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're coming close to the end here. Is there any other recommendations or anything that stands out that you really want the listeners to know about?
Well, I want to encourage people that this may seem like a huge chore and it's one more thing to do when we're all so busy, but it's so important in this day and age for us to keep track of ourselves. And it's our health. And I think the health of our family. And what could be more important than taking care of our health and our family's health, really?
Sure.
I think that that's it. And when you say, oh, I can't be bothered, I don't have time, or the doctor will do it, think again, because times are changed. And it's just one of those things that you just do it, figure it out, put the coffee pot on, do the whole thing in one day, or just chip away, get your information in one spot. You don't even have to write it all out. If you want to clip pages, clip them to the page, whatever works for you, but have everything in one spot and work at it. And then you have peace of mind.
That is good. And that's really good advice. Go ahead and tell us again what your website is.
It's personal-health-organizer.com.
Okay. And is there anything that you're working on? What's next?
For health?
Whatever you're working on.
I'm actually writing book 3 and 4 at the same time. Okay. And they're Christian books.
Wonderful. Yeah. And when can we expect those out?
Well, I thought by the end of March, but no, it's not going to be the end of March. It'll be this year. I'm planning. Yeah, it's fun. They're fun projects, and then I'll be doing a little podcast, Pastor and Anne, and we're going to do 5 minutes. Well, I call it a podcast. It's not a podcast. I'm not that technical. It's YouTube, for a YouTube and maybe Facebook. And it's how you can find peace through scripture. And it's 5 minutes once a week. And it's like a scenario like road rage. And I can tell you my road rage. And I will give incidents because I'm Anne. And the pastor will explain the scripture. And it's just trying to live a life of peace.
And how do people find that?
Through the Bible.
How do people find that?
Well, we're in the process. We haven't quite gone up live yet, but that's a good question. YouTube, I think. YouTube. Okay. YouTube. And well, I can let you know when it starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And our listeners, I'm assuming you'll have it on your website as well, a link?
Yes. Good. Yep. That's good. Oh, that's good. That's how I could let people know. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm just not technical, am I?
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. You've done great. Yeah. Anne, I want to thank you for being on the show. Anne McAwley-LeDuc. I pray that everyone goes out and purchases your book. It's a personal health organizer. I think everybody that has a new baby should have this. Mm-hmm. Yes. Everybody that has small children, it's not too late to catch up.
Nope. That's
so
true.
I think it's a wonderful resource. I thank you so much for being on the show and giving us all of this great information.
And thank you for the promotion for the book. I think it's important. And you're the best. And thank you for having me on to share the message.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, it's been a great show. This is Michelle Bannister reminding you to start today and live the life you were meant to live.